You might think, okay, yeah, I'm using it recreational, I like the way it make me feel. But for me, it got to the point where I needed it. Like I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do nothing without it. I had to smoke. I still love the game of football, but unfortunately, it was taken away from me due to my actions. But it was taken away from me, and it hurt. It really did. Growing up, everybody in my family, everybody in my friends' family, it was the norm. Like, so I never looked at it like they had a problem. My dad went to work every day, came home, may have drank, may not have drank, but looking back at it, yeah, it was a problem.
Odell Thurman was born on July 9th, 1983, in the town of Monticello, Georgia. Raised alongside many of his first cousins under the same roof, his grandmother was the backbone of the family. His neighborhood, which they called Frogtown, was full of extended family.
We grew up right down the street, right here, not the blue house, but the house beside it, gray house. Coming up, Odell, he was always tough, you know what I'm saying? We used to knock him in the head bushes playing football outside. He'll run in the house with grandma. He was grandma's baby, you know. So she'll get on to us. He'll stay in for a minute. After a minute, he right back out there ready to do it again.
Odell's grandmother was everything to him from the moment he was born. Because she gave him extra love and attention, his aunts, uncles, and the rest of his family were grooming him to be something special early on.
I actually lost my mom at the age of 11. She was in my life here and there, you know, but I lost her so early, it was kind of like, I remember my mom, but not much. My grandmother raised me, but my dad was real involved in my life. My dad had my back regardless if I was right or wrong. So, you know, growing up, he was very supportive. He was at every sporting event I had. He made sure I never wanted for nothing.
Although he was born into a large, loving family, he experienced the effects of alcohol addiction early on in his life.
I actually lost my dad like a week before my first game here at the University of Georgia. Kidney failure from drinking. Me looking back at it, a lot of that, me losing my dad at the time I lost my dad, was another one of the reasons that I drank and did what I did. But I never wanted to face it. I thought, I'm okay. I'm good. I still got it. But it was beginning then.
Odell attended Jasper County High School and was a multi-sport athlete, excelling in both basketball and football. While there, he was a Macon Telegraph first-team all-purpose, all-state selection at both linebacker and fullback. And as a senior, he rushed for over 1,100 yards and recorded 153 tackles.
Coming from Monticello High, I really wasn't recruited by a whole bunch of big schools. And, you know, being right down the street, when UGA called and said they wanted me, it was no question, like, okay, I'm there. It really wasn't no, the school was this, the school was that. I could go to the University of Georgia. When Georgia called, it was like, I'm gone.
I first met Odell through recruiting while I was the head coach at Georgia. And he wasn't really that highly recruited, but he was a guy that we liked. I remember Coach Van Gorder, our defensive coordinator at the time, really liked what he saw. He was a little bit undersized coming out of high school to play linebacker, but it didn't take him long to gain weight. You know, once he started eating with us and training with us, it didn't take long for him to look like a middle linebacker.
I think I graduated high school at like 195, so got here and I want to say over probably like a month period. I was like 215, and I gotta say I owed it to Coach Van Gorder for getting me in the meeting room, the last person to leave, first person in there, and teaching me the game. So once I learned the game, it kind of got easy to me.
Me and Odell had similar stories. Neither one of us was highly recruited. We didn't have every school in the country that wanted us to come play for them, but we had a lot of talent, and we were going to display it to the world when we got that opportunity.
Local kid from Oconee County, blessed enough to get a scholarship to come here and play running back. My freshman year here was 2002, and you know, he came in, we were supposed to come in together in 01, but I went to prep school for a year. I went to Fort Union Military Academy, and by the time I came back here in 02, Odell had got kicked out for bar fights or something, a wild Odell story. But so he wasn't here when I initially got here, but he was like a folklore. Like, people were talking about this kid. Like, we had a linebacker here, Odell, got kicked out, and he's supposed to be coming back. And so I knew he was pretty good, but I hadn't had a chance to meet him. But when he came back immediately, you know what I mean, you could tell that he was gonna be a big help for the team. But not only that, you know, I could tell me and him were gonna be close immediately.
The 99-yard interception for a touchdown against Auburn, I gotta say, that was one of the highlights of my career.
On 3rd and goal from the 2. Here's Campbell, tucks it, throws it deep in the end zone. Looked like last week, didn't it? There goes Odell Thurman. Odell Thurman still running free, and Odell Thurman gets in for the touchdown.
Just seeing the whole 90,000 people in the crowd go wild. They was yelling for me.
Well, he was dynamic. I mean, he was truly a special player. I remember the 99-yard touchdown return where I remember him, he made special plays. He was a unique athletic talent. And I think he also had an energy about him that had his teammates who really he led. He was vocal, and then of course his energy level was just sky high.
My main motivation. Yeah, the NFL was the ultimate goal, you know, so, but just making my family proud was the main thing. Like, okay, I'm here, I can't let them down.
As Odell continued to succeed during his time at Georgia, he remained close with his grandmother. She provided the most strength and motivation in his life, but he also had much more riding on his shoulders. Thurman became a father to his firstborn, Odalius, while in school, and his second son, Jelani, was on the way. Odell and his growing family now had new inspiration to succeed. He used the death of his father to push him to become the player he always wanted to be. And he had the support of his teammates and hometown every step of the way. After another dominant season as a junior, Odell knew that it was time to decide whether or not he was ready to enter the NFL draft.
I didn't know where I was gonna get picked, but I was told late first, early second, so I was like, I'm gone.
Very athletic, very fast, agile. You know, a good enough athlete to be drafted in the second round, so that's pretty good.
It was a little disappointing, but after you hear your name get picked, it all goes away. I'm here now, I made it. After the 32nd pick of the first round went by, I was down. Like, I didn't make it in the first round. Am I gonna make it in the second round?
After missing out on being a first-round draft pick, Odell didn't have to wait much longer before his dream of playing in the NFL became a reality. The Cincinnati Bengals picked him 42nd overall, and just hearing his name called was more than enough to satisfy him.
I can remember him as a player when he first arrived at University of Georgia as a great player. I remember when he was drafted, and had a great rookie season in the NFL.
Three-step drop. Intercepted. Odell Thurman, the rookie from Georgia, hidden down close, and he's in. So the Bengals, with no flags down, are ready to tie the game on the extra point attempt, a 30-yard return. The Bengal defense.
I don't know, some of my friends might think different, but I used to love to practice. And it was my life. I wanted to be there. So when you love something, it was easy for me to grow good at it.
My senior year here, on senior day, I broke my leg, and then by that time Odell was playing for the Bengals. I went up and stayed with Odell for maybe like 2-3 months and just kind of struggled myself for a while he was really doing well. So I hadn't seen him. I left Cincinnati and I came back home and I didn't see him for like 5 years.
I was on the roster for 3 years, but after my first year, I was suspended. I go back to say alcohol wasn't a problem, but I got a DUI one night after partying, and after getting that DUI, the NFL come and drug test you. I was also smoking weed, so that was like 2 strikes and 1. After that, I was suspended for 4 games. I was suspended for, they give you 4-game checks, then they give you 4-game suspension. And all that just happened just back to back to back till it was a year suspension before I even was up with the 4-game suspension. I sat out that year, went to rehab for like 6 months out of that year. I got out of rehab and was told I'm still not reinstated. I was partially reinstated. I could go work out with the team. I could do all the stuff, but I wasn't fully reinstated yet. So I was still doing that, doing everything I needed to do, and made the decision to smoke again. I grew to loving marijuana to the point to where I needed it for everything. Like, I would smoke before going to movies. I would smoke just to take a ride somewhere. I would smoke just to do anything every day. Yeah, I had to have it to eat.
Football provided him that discipline and structure that I think he needed to make those good decisions. And so it was really heartbreaking. I was hopeful that maybe it was just a poor decision, and then when I think the patterns started to present themselves, that it was going to be something that he was going to have to make choices about every day.
After the game of football was taken from me, I just didn't want to face it. I didn't want to deal with it. So alcohol became more and more involved, and to the point to where I needed it, and I couldn't stop.
I met Odell first when he's a student athlete here. Probably one of the most talented linebackers I've ever seen. Was a great athlete. Had a tough family history. Had a very, very strong history for substance abuse from a family standpoint. Probably one of the strongest we've had here in a long time. And we know that, you know, when you have a significant substance abuse issue from a family standpoint, genetically it can affect you as well.
At that time, my grandmother passed. So I come back home. Once you travel, you have to tell the NFL where you're going. And they came to test me at my grandmother's funeral. It was a bad timing, but like it was just like I refused to test, knowing that I was dirty.
Odell knew of his family history with alcohol abuse and that a medical condition could have been passed down to him. But he knew he wasn't a weak person. The situation he was in was because of the decisions he made.
I never wanted to look at it that way. It's not medical, it's me. It was the decisions I made. It was all because of me.
I got a call right before Thanksgiving from Odell's uncle. Odell had basically lost everything. He lost all of his money, his family, and he had some alcohol-related seizures, and they transported him to the emergency room. He was in ICU in Emory, and that's how we first found out about him. So I went down to visit him and met his family, and it was obvious he needed some help, and somebody needed to step up. So we got together a group of people, and this was not just a Georgia thing. His family was involved. There's a lot of people in the community involved. But there was a lot of people that loved and cared about him and wanted to reach out to be able to provide him help.
I never thought it was something serious because he's always, was a party animal. So I didn't think it was something he was struggling with to the point where it was like crippling him, you know what I mean? But one day he just showed up at my house. After 5 years of not hearing from him, he just showed up at my back door. And when I seen him, I knew immediately that it was something different about him.
After losing my grandma, it was like, who else do I have to answer to? Like, I stopped caring for a second. And I think I stopped caring for too long. And NFL was like so far away. It was like, ain't no coming back.
He lived with me under 2 different circumstances. The first time he stayed with me for about 9 months, and we had kind of got him clean. He was doing this outpatient rehab over off Mitchell Bridge Road, and he was doing pretty good. He left, relapsed again, and came back again. And then this time he stayed with me for about a year, and he was doing real well. Like, I thought he had beat it. He went on a vacation. He was supposed to go to the lake or mountains or something, and he was supposed to be gone for the weekend, and he was gone for 30 days. I didn't hear from him. I knew something was wrong. 30 days later, he called me back, told me, what was going on, and from that point, I was like, if that's what you choose to do, you just can't come back here until you're sober. So,
I think first it was hard. We put him into a place called the Potter's House, and you have to agree to go there for a year, and that's difficult, to agree to that. He had small children, and initially there were some big restrictions on visitation. He knew he was going to be away from them for a long period of time. But we also talked about, at this point in your life, do you really want your children to see you the way you are? Would it be better to take some time for yourself and recover, and then be the dad and the father that you can be?
We knew about this program called the Potter's House. It was a program you got to go in there for a year and commit to being sober and to rehabilitating, to get yourself in position to get work and all those kind of things, and a very comprehensive plan. And eventually he ended up landing there, and I think it's made a huge difference in his life.
It gave me the opportunity and the time to separate myself from the real world, if you want to say, but it gave me that opportunity to evaluate my life and really get down to the reasons of why I drank or why I smoked, and really let it be heard by other men that was going through the same situation I was going through. We different, but had the same common denominator. But after getting it out and getting it off my chest, like, okay, the real core reason for why I did what I did or why I drank and smoked, the Potter House really saved my life.
I think the one thing that I realized more with going through Odell's situation is all the stuff he was going through in his personal life at home was something we never talked about. Like, he lost his mom and his dad. His dad died while we were in college. And it was just something that we just all totally just moved on from, like as if it wasn't an issue. Like, he actually went to the hospital and his dad took his last breath, and he walked out, came back to Athens. We went to a club, got ready for a game on Saturday, and we just moved on.
When you think about dealing with addiction and some of the things that people struggle with from an addiction standpoint, there are usually some causes or some things within your life that causes you to turn to certain things. For me, knowing the type of guy that Odell is, knowing that he's a hard worker, he does what he's asked to do. He's a guy that wants to be successful, that wanted to be successful. You never saw him as a guy that would that would potentially get addicted to anything. But when you think about the tragedies that he had faced in his life, you know, dealing with losing your mom, dealing with losing your dad, and then eventually end up losing your grandmother, you know, those are tough pills to swallow for anybody. And you know, he was no different. You know, when things got hard, it was easier for him to, you know, pick up a bottle of alcohol and take a drink, or you know, smoke weed during those times.
I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't gonna admit it. I wasn't gonna tell nobody I had a problem. I was this big football player that I can't stop drinking or I can't stop smoking. Talk to somebody. If it's not a friend, somebody that you really trust, and don't let it get, because it only get worse. It's not gonna get any better. Smoking and drinking don't help. Then after seeing the good, you you go to a rehab for a month, 2 months, you're not that far detached from just doing what you was just doing. During that year, I needed that whole year to do that. But definitely watching other men grow just like I was growing, and seeing that it could be done, and life is so much better without it. So I owe the Potter House everything.
It's been a 180-degree change, you know, to see him now being a productive member of society. He's gone back to school, he has a job, he's reconnected with his family. He's been a positive influence for our student athletes. He's helped us significantly with some of our athletes that have had issues, and been able to take his life experiences and help them as well. So I can't express how proud I am of him, and how great it is to see somebody deal with the adversity he did and make, you know, such a change in their lives.
I think Odell's story is special because, first of all, he's one of us. He's a family member of the Bulldog Nation, and I know so many of the players that I played with during my time respected Odell as a player, and his story's so unique that the Georgia family has never quit on Odell. And Odell's never given up on the Georgia family. He's come back several times. Ryan Corson and his staff have had a tremendous relationship with Odell. And it's very important that we understand that when we have trouble, when we leave here, you can always lean on the University of Georgia and the time you spent here. It's a family, and there's so many things that we have to outreach when you leave that can still help you, whether it's finding another employer, finding help, any of the troubles and hurdles you come to. We're a family and we want to take care of each other.
You know, we made the commitment to him, and now he's got his education, he's sober, he's working. He has his driver's license, so Lovey doesn't have to drive him around anymore.
Here at Georgia, you have a lot of resources and people who genuinely look at you as the person and not you as the athlete. And I think that Odell probably would say he's tried to do it on his own, but I think, you know, everybody needs help, and for him, he needed some accountability. He needed a support group, because you're going to have your bad days as you're getting on your feet. And so I would like to think that we had one small part of that, but at the end of the day, he was the one that had to do the hard work. And so that's what I'm just so proud of him for.
I'm so happy that we're able to be here and we're able to celebrate Odell's success story. You know, knowing the kind of person, knowing the kind of player that he was, knowing the kind of father that he's working to become. It's truly amazing to be able to see him transform his life, and, you know, really give his life to God, and just ultimately become that man that we know that Odell Thurman is capable of being.
I think one of the most important things we can do is care for our student athletes while they're here, but also once they're done. And education is a huge part of that. Preventive maintenance, you want to prevent things from coming up that all happen sometimes during college. Sometimes they hit you post-college. Addictions are a tough thing, and I've seen it now that I'm in my 40s. I've watched a lot of the players that I played with or I've coached go through tough times and have struggles. But the importance for us is to make sure we give every student athlete on this campus an opportunity for help if they seek help, and that we can be here and be of some help for the players and for the student athletes.
Like I said, I'm a local kid. I grew up around here. Like all my life, I didn't want to be anything else but a Bulldog. because of this for football. But now that I've had the chance to be a part of his family, just to see things that they do for guys outside of football, Odell is like the biggest testimony you can really have for what this program is willing to do for the players that leave here, because they didn't have to do anything. You know, they could have just said, you know, he's gone, he's no longer our problem. And Odell had a pretty successful career. It's not like he was one of these guys that left here and struggled to find a job or something. He made millions of dollars, but they never turned their back on him. So, you know, that's why I'll always, wherever I'm at, I'm representing the G everywhere I'm at.
My main goal is to be a great father and be remembered as that. I want them to love me more than anything. And, you know, being that provider for them, I'm more than proud of myself. Like I said, I had a whole lot of time at the Potter House to evaluate my life, and this might be one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever had.